Snow, 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 snow. It won't be long before we'll all be there with snow.
Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Meteorologist Greg Majewski back with you, your trusted weather source here with your weather update here on your January the 30th, 2026. Well, the countdown is on to our snowstorm coming in, and be honest with you, some areas may be flirting with blizzard conditions because it's going to be windy, it's going to be cold, we're going to have some snow, and we're going to break it all down for you here on this update. Now, if you live anywhere here across North Georgia and this is your first time here to our YouTube channel, please hit that subscribe button, and very importantly, hit that notification bell so you're alerted on future weather content so you can stay up on the latest changing developments on storms like this one or other storms in the future. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into this right now as we look at Brasstown Bald. Hey, it's looking pretty good out there. We got clouds moving on in. One thing's for sure, tomorrow we're probably not going to be able to see much here other than a blinding snowstorm blowing here across the mountains. It's going to be very picturesque, to say the least. This picture here is going to turn quite white going in towards Sunday for sure. Now, looking at Dahlonega, we had a little sunshine earlier here, but the clouds have thickened up back into the area, and we're going to see more clouds and lowering deck with those clouds as we head into the overnight period. Also looking at Lake Chattooga, seeing a little sunshine out there. Again, nice little pan there on the lake. Pretty quiet there right there for the moment as far as the winds are concerned, but those winds are going to really come up significantly, and this is going to be covered all in white as we go toward tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow morning. All right, here's current watches and warnings. We've added some additional counties here to the western zone, so these have been added in here as some of the models are indicating maybe some heavier snows may work their way a little bit further to the west. It's going to be a close call, but one thing's for sure, it's going to be definitely some heavier snows in the eastern zones as compared to the west. Thus, they have the winter weather advisories generally in that zone and not looking at the winter storm warnings, all right? Now, let's go and take a look at our local radar. It's quiet here for the moment. They've got the sensitivity on this thing turned way down, which you kind of got to do for snow. That's where you've seen a little bit of that upper level moisture there. Just a little bit kind of sneaking through the Georgia right now. But we'll be watching this very closely. Obviously, we got some nice cameras out there as well, so we'll be watching those closely during our live coverage there on your Saturday. Looking at the satellite picture right now, things not looking too bad. We're watching this energy back here. This is part of that polar vortex that's kind of diving down and heading right for us here. And I tell you, this is some cold air, folks. We're talking about the cold core of this, just a few thousand feet up below zero. And I'm not talking about 32. I'm talking below zero. So some very cold air diving down with this system. Looking at your regional radar here for this afternoon. Again, not bad. We did warm up into the 40s today. It felt not too bad out there, but things are changing, and you can just kind of feel it in the air that something is off. Something's coming this way, and I think you're going to definitely see the changes coming for tomorrow. All right, let's go get into the latest and greatest model data here on this. We're going to start off first with the latest NAM model here. Again, all these models are in pretty good agreement. The big story maker here, as the snows come in during the morning hours here, as we head toward dawn, is this big polar vortex here. This is it right here. You see that little cutoff circle right there. 504s on the heights. That's some tremendously cold, heavy air. We're talking below zero at its core, and just a few thousand feet up. I mean, not very high at all. And this thing's going to drift right through the south. It's going to squeeze every bit of moisture out of it. It's spurring low pressure to form here off the South Carolina coast here. And there's a little bit of a connection between these two. There's a little bit of a trough setting back in there. So we're pulling some moisture off the Atlantic, bringing it back into that very cold Arctic air, and it's just dumping it all over the place. Those darker blues are your heavier snows. It's going to take pretty much all day to clear on out of here before it's out of the state. So coming in during the morning and really lasting a lot of the day, especially those eastern zones, and then finally clearing on out and setting up for a very cold Sunday before things recover. And believe it or not, we may actually have temperatures getting closer to near normal as we head toward Tuesday, briefly, because don't get used to it. It looks like it's cold again toward the end of next week. Again, all these models are in pretty good agreement. Here's the GFS 12Z run. Again, showing that cold core, showing the eastern zones with a favored heavier precipitation. The GFS here is a little bit starving as far as bringing the snows into Alabama, but I suspect because of how cold that area is, we'll get flurries all through Alabama as well. Here is the Canadian model. Again, you can see the snows here picking up on the Canadian model here across areas of Alabama as well. But you see where the heavier snows are falling across Georgia and into the Carolinas. as that moves on out. So the Canadian model's pretty good agreement. Again, all these models are all very good agreement. European model, it's definitely been the aggressor one as far as snow amounts, but not as much snow there to the west on the European model, but still showing that heavy snow track across the east and going on out to sea. All right, so let's talk snow amounts. All right, let's first take a look at the NAM. This backed off a little bit here. Let me switch over to the state view. There we go. Is backed off a little bit here as far as the metro area is concerned, but North Georgia, again, the northwest area is not that much. You head over toward Blue Ridge, showing 5.5. I'm sure we'll see 6 inches plus heading on over to Blairsville, heading on over there to Clayton, going down toward Helen, Dahlonega, the healthy zones there, going into Banks County and areas up there toward Habersham. Some very good snow totals there expected here as this moves on through. Looking at the European model, again, very healthy snow totals in here. A little bit more activity here on the European model here for areas back in the west. You see these like 1 inch totals. That's why they put that snow, the winter weather advisory, even for the western counties, because you still may get enough there to cause some problems. It doesn't take a whole lot of snow, especially as cold as the ground temperatures are. Here's the GFS model, favoring a little bit more toward the east, not as much snow there to the west. And then finally, the Canadian model, it shifts a little bit back this way. But they're all generally telling us the same story, folks. The eastern areas are going to be the most favored areas. The western areas make a little bit, not a whole lot. And it's going to be a dry, fluffy snow, which means a high water ratio, which means when you have a wet snow, for example, you may get 5-6 inches for like a half inch, for a foot of 1 inch of rain. You bring it on down and those ratios go up. Traditionally, it's 1 to 10 inches for every 1 inch of precipitation. When it gets really dry, like this is going to be in the 20s, it falls to like 1 to 15. So again, you can get a lot more snow to accumulate with lower precipitation amounts. All right. So anyway, let's go look at our forecast map here as we go through the next 7 days. Watch that little timestamp there. Again, we're going to watch the storm develop here fairly quickly here, going into the overnight hours. Seeing the first flurries coming in there during the morning hours. And then picking up as we go into the afternoon, settling down in the evening, and then very cold going into Sunday. We're still going to have a little bit of wind Sunday. Wind chill is going to be a factor. Wind chill factors will be quite significant. In fact, I need to back this up one little thing. I do want to point out one thing here. So let me back this up real quick here for you real quick. I do want to point this out. These wind chills are going to have a real bite to them, folks. Check, they're going to really fall down. I forgot to mention this. Look at this, dropping it into the single digits here for a lot of North Georgia. That gray area is below zero. So we're going to see a widespread below zero temperatures here going in towards Sunday morning. So very, very cold, very, very frigid. So during the day on Saturday, single digits. Make sure if the kids are going out to play in the snow, no skin exposed at all. And if they get wet, make sure they get back inside immediately. They get hypothermia very quickly or get frostbite. Very easy. So please be careful out in this cold. All right, so let's go back to the forecast map here as I digress a little bit. As we watch what happens here, we do have a system coming at us here as we go toward the middle of the week. It's going to bring us a chance of rain. There's the Tuesday system. There's Wednesday. There's that chance of rain. Getting back to near normal, we'll see 50s. Yeah, all right, that'll feel pretty good. But don't get used to it because we get cold again on Thursday and on Friday. We're back down into the 40s and 20s again by the time we get toward Friday. So sorry about that, folks. So here we go is our forecast here for tomorrow, 24, 22. The high-low tomorrow really doesn't matter. Your official high is probably going to be after midnight, but just heavy snow possible there in Gainesville, the eastern counties. Again, lows in the teens and 20s. You have a light wind in the overnight. Snow will be picking up toward dawn, and then really you'll have your high temperatures, and they'll kind of falling throughout the afternoon. So just know whiteout conditions are possible, especially where the heavier snows are going to be, especially as the winds pick up. Not quite blizzard conditions, but boy, is it going to be blowing around pretty good here for tomorrow afternoon. Regionally looking like this. Look at that. I got snow down to Savannah. Not very often I get to put a snow icon down to Savannah, but I got snow icon there. They'll hit 45 and then kind of drop off as the cold air moves in there with some snow. Columbia, snow. Atlanta, Asheville, Charlotte, all snow. And check out the Gulf Coast. You think you can warm up down there? Nope. We're 37 in Mobile, Destin, and New Orleans. So a very frigid day there on Saturday. Here we go the next 7 days as, again, we're looking quite nippy there for Sunday and Monday. And again, like I said, Tuesday, back in the 50s. We got the rain on Wednesday, but then we chill right back down. We're back into the 40s and 20s there going into Friday. So at least we get, it looks like we're going to stay pretty cold on Sunday. Stay off the roads. I suspect that the roads conditions will be pretty bad right into Monday, but if we get temperatures above back in the 40s, we'll start to get into things that will be able to dry out a little bit and look better. But it looks like I think road conditions, especially on Sunday, are going to be pretty rough out there as the snow, when it gets on this ground, and everybody off the roads to begin with because they're not traveling. The interstates are going to get really icy. It's going to be pretty bad out there, so please be careful, to say the least. And as far as the outlook for February, I was looking at some long-range stuff. I'm not liking what I'm seeing going on in the stratosphere up in the Arctic. Another stratospheric warming event, which means the polar vortex is all jacked up again. I still see colder weather potential going into February, and with La Nina dying or pretty much dead, more active subtropical, there may be some additional opportunities for snow even in February. So we may not be done with this yet. I'm not saying we're going to snow again, but I am saying we may see another chance or another opportunity going into the month of February. So for you folks who are hoping for spring to hurry and get here, I don't see the groundhog saying we're going to have an early spring, at least not this year. At least this weather guy says, nope, I don't see an early spring for us this year. Anyway, that is y'all's update for now. I appreciate you guys checking us out. If you're new here to the YouTube channel, again, I appreciate you. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button, and by all means, very importantly, hit that notification bell. I learned in my lesson on my last YouTube channel that if I don't get my subscribers to hit that notification bell when they subscribe, it's a moot point, because the way YouTube works, they just don't reference it over to you enough. All right, so help me out there. Anyway, that's y'all's update. Y'all be good, stay safe, and we'll see you during our live updates tomorrow. Probably going to start about 6 o'clock in the morning, and check us out there. We'll be simulcasting on YouTube and on Facebook. You guys have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.